Welcome back, guys, and what a massive dump. This is incredible. We haven't seen a weekend dump like this in a long time. We have a lot to talk about. Sorry about the clickbait title, but we need to get them views. We need to get them views. So leave a like and subscribe. And let me explain what I'm looking at here. And it's a surprise seeing such a massive dump on the weekend. Just looking at the daily, I never managed to pick up this area here because my price target for buying would have been here at this box at 51k. It just seemed to be one of these manipulation. Well, no one manipulates manipulation can be seen in many different ways, but what it seems to be is this is one of these washout dumps liquidating a lot of long positions, because I personally would have had buy orders set in at this area here or at this base here, but it seemed to ended up in the middle. So what this tells me is that, all right, look, in this move they wanted all the buy orders that were here, they wanted to put them in drawdown, scare them and make them sell for loss, and all of the buy orders that were gonna get the proper dump and was gonna get the move, and they front ran that. So definitely a washout move. We haven't seen one in the weekend like this, but as I always say, we do see these counter trend moves in the weekend, and it's quite normal. Now there is many things that can happen here, and the first thing is on daily structure, right? And this is what I need to keep very, very clear. Remember how CME's closed. CME's closed here. The weekly on CME's closed, relatively good. It looks quite bullish for a wick fill for coming into next week. Traditional markets also are looking good, right? Closing very strong. Look how strong that is closing. So, to be honest, coming back to Bitcoin here, the weekly closing like this on Bitcoin at the moment is not looking great, right? Taking out the other weekly lows and stuff like that. And even the daily, if the daily does decide to close below this pivot here at 56k, let's say, I'm going to switch around to be bearish, and I could say that this is possibly an early sign of a reversal, right? We do have 16 hours of trading, so a lot can happen during that time. But the weekly, if the weekly does close back below this range here at that 56k, then that would be a confirmed weekly reversal, guys. And remember what I said about a confirmed weekly reversal is, that could be, I could look for one of a massive move back down to maybe even all the way back down to this area here, 38 to even 32. And so today is a very critical day, and is very important that you understand that if we do close below this area here, most of the time this could be set up to be a reversal. Because if we look at the past here, right, we have never, the last time we saw a weekly close below its higher low structure was, we never saw that happen in the bull run, right? We always put in higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher highs, and then the minute we did close a lower low here, which we can see was right at this point, that is the catalyst for this big bear market. So if that was to happen, then I would have to say, based on previous data, then we could be looking for something like that. But as to say, I am still bullish on Bitcoin, because if you look at this on the daily, we have reversed a lot of the move, right? And you could see this wick has already been bought up 8% in a 13% move. So half, 50%, this has already been bought up, which is very, very bullish, and this is looking more like a liquidity wick. So that in itself is very interesting. Looking at the Stokes, you can see that they're very crossed down, and we can just look at, there's a lot of trend lines coming in on these Stokes, right? We can see these lows being catched all the way from, actually, no, not that one. Where was my lines coming in? Yeah, we could see on this here, we can see all of these lows being caught here on this regression here. So that is a trend line on the 1 hour catching it. I do believe there was one, coming here on the 12 hour as well. Oops. So we can see here on the 12 hours catching all of these lows, and this is a very interesting one, because it would meet it coming down here to cross up, and we do have a lot of trend lines supporting price action to continue the upside momentum. Now what I find very, very interesting is that just how much this has been bought up and continues to be bought up. So going in the lower time frames here, like even 4 hour here, like looking at momentum on the 4 hour, we do have, this type of regressions coming from these lows, and you can see how it is a slight upwards regression, and we're not putting in lower lows, and even these got demolished. So Stokes look like it does want to bounce out of this area, and it looks like the lower time frames can put in a range. I would say that range should be, basically from here. This is the top of the range, and then the bottom of the range would be something like this. So we are testing the top of the range now. I'm going to draw this in blue. And yeah, that would be your most recent resistance. How do we know? Because of that wick, and it looks like we are breaking through, so it is looking good. So there's two ways you can play this. I don't think that this is gonna V-shape itself out of, right? I don't think we're gonna get something like this. We could, it is Bitcoin, but it is the weekend, right? If you saw the volume that came through on this move, you guys are gonna be shocked. Like, look at that volume. It's incredible amount of volume coming through on this move here. So for the volume to shoot it back up again, needs to have another volume signature like that, and we can see very clearly that that's not happening, right? So what do I expect? Well, I kind of expect, for it to reject somewhere around this area here, come back in a range and play out a range like this, and then break up to the upside if it wants to continue bullish later on in the day. But what you have to understand is we have to keep our eyes on that daily closure, right? If we close within the range where we are right now, if we play a sideways range and close exactly where we are, we're still bullish on all time frames. So there's two ways to play this move, guys, and it's very important that you understand this. There's two ways to play the move, and this is not financial advice, of course. The second way is if this was to reject back down here and keep this area here, you could see that as an opportunity, using this as your stop loss for price to continue up. Or a second way that you could play this is that you could wait for the daily close, which is the more conservative and is more what I'm leaning to, because I don't want to take much risk. There's no point of losing money, and if I miss the move, I miss the move. But you could go half as well, waiting for the daily closure. And if the daily does end up closing as a higher low here, with the weekly closing above its last pivot, then that will look good for continuation coming into next week. And another thing that I do want to go over that's really important is that if Bitcoin does end up, popping up here, we get a nice move and then start ranging with Bitcoin dominance at the same time, heading down. Where's my Bitcoin dominance? Not this. There we go. With Bitcoin dominance heading down here, then, we could be set up for an alt season, but we have caught this bounce, right? We have caught this bounce at where we saw these old lows here, and we can see that, we are catching a bounce at this area. So it is possible that we see Bitcoin bounce off this area, or this could be just a simple retracement before continuing down. So a lot of interesting things are happening here, and, price is getting very, very interesting, and Bitcoin is getting interesting. Now, I would like to see how this plays out. In terms of Ethereum, had the same thing, but look, it's retraced so much, which is looking bullish, maintaining structure. Ethereum didn't even take out its lower side structure here, which is very surprising, and has already retraced, 11% of its move, which is very, very strong to see. Also, Ethereum, this is also setting up and is looking nice, you know what I mean? Because we can see that liquidity type of wick, and I'm sure that, you can see that we're catching just out of the critical zone here, popping back in quite aggressively and quite quickly here, which at the end of the day is fulfilling, a regression that looks like this, right? So keeping that, a regression means, guys, that we're keeping an upwards momentum. The minute we go into a downwards momentum like this, then it starts to change structure, and that's all we use Stokes for, is momentum. So this is also looking good if it does want to continue and turn around. And same for Ethereum. As long as Ethereum's not closing technically below, I would say, this pivot here at 2121, then I'm not bearish. And look, Ethereum looks like it wants to flip, and that looks quite bullish to me. Jumping back here to Bitcoin, you've heard my thoughts on how I would play this. And what I think about it. Alts have been absolutely smashed, and you can see which ones, all look very, very similar, but the ones that are being bought back up, and are holding 4-hour structure, are typically going to be the ones that are typically going to be the ones that do well, coming. I don't want to give like financial advice, but the ones that are holding good structure here during this dump are the ones that are going to do well, right? So we can see like, this not really holding the best of structure, right? Dot is holding somewhat good. It is holding good structure, right? And you can go through it yourself, looking at which ones have hold good structure. For example, bad, terrible structure, right? We can see, technically downside resolution. So, you can go through these alts, and that's basically what I'm looking at. But you can see here Bitcoin popping up. And, I do expect it to find resistance. As I said, I'm not expecting V-shaped, but it could happen, guys. It could happen. So with that being said, I'll leave you with that. That's what I'm expecting. That's how I'm going to play this myself. And I really did not expect to dump this deep. With that being said, take care, trade sharp, and until next time.